preview, but it didn't last time. There we go. We're live on Facebook.
Oh, we are live on Facebook. Okay, I'm gonna go to your page.
So, hi everyone, and welcome to Love Speaks Love. We're just doing the sharing and the technical stuff. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so just going to share. Share it to a few groups. Are you going to do it to Soulogy?
Yeah.
Just bear with us. I'm just saying, just bear with us a second or two.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that'll do there. So welcome everybody to Love Speaks Love. And my guest today is Todd Medina, who I'm assuming most people will probably know. Just bear with us a second or two. Turn that down. So Todd has been doing Soulspeaks 5D for a number of years. When I first tapped into it in 2016 with Yukia's first show, you'd already been doing it a while then. And you've been doing live broadcasts for a long, long time. And I have to say that without you doing that, I wouldn't be doing this now. So thank you for the inspiration for that. I'm super, super grateful. And super grateful for the connections that I've made through Soulogy as well. And aside from the upgrades and the really interesting chats, the community that has been established and the little hubs that kind of grow from that. And this is the beautiful thing, I think, of more people kind of doing shows, because there's people in my hub that you won't have in your hub. Yeah. So it really feels like we're interweaving, and I just see these beautiful kind of golden threads getting really, really strong. And I wanted to honor you for the way that you hold space for people as well, because your energy is always really honoring and respectful and welcoming and loving. And you're very sensitive to people's energies, and that really shows when you do your chats. So yeah, welcome Todd. Thank you for being my guest.
I don't know what to say to all that, but thank you. Yeah. It's cool because I can't remember if it was 2016 or it was late 2016. I don't even know. I can't remember anything. Maybe late 2017 when we started doing. We did about 200 lives on Facebook Live, and then we did like, and then we started doing like Soulspeaks 5Ds. But anyway, it's interesting watching, those little hubs, those little cells of people. All you got to do is like go through the news feed and you can see who's made connections, and then people start groups, and then they start doing their own shows. And I'm with you on that. I think everybody gains from just, picking up the video, even if you're just talking to everybody and you don't have a guest. There's something about, and you're probably experiencing it already in the early stages of your show. There's something about having conversations. When we remove the mask and just be transparent and have these conversations, and you show up, regardless of how you feel, there's something about it. Truth. It's just, it's incredible.
And sometimes I don't know how you've carried on with shows like that first one with Yukia when she did an activation. It was really strong. And the shows with my mind's going blank on names. So Grace Solaris almost disappeared, but when you're at this lady's house in Kauai as well, mine's gone blank.
Yeah, there's a lot of oh, Lisa Brown.
Yeah, Lisa Sentence
Yeah,
Brown, like
Lisa Brown.
that was a
Yeah,
mega
yeah,
interview.
we did like 4 hour shows over like a year and a half. But yeah, in the early days, because when we really ramped it up was in the summer of 2018. Morgan came, we got married. It was the second
Mhm.
time she'd come to the States. I had a place where I was renting a basement in Georgia, and she just came in, um, and she said it's time to expand it. And about that time, some other people came in and started. They helped us schedule some shows, and then I don't know what happened, but we were doing like shit. We did. I think we did like between 75 and 95 shows a month for like 2 or 3 straight months. And yeah, it was kind of crazy because every show's like a session,
Yeah,
and I try to put myself in the audience's shoes. There's a lot of stuff that people they come on, and I know it already. I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I'm a very high vibrational. I just don't like put it out there. Not, you know what I mean? And so what'll happen is I would kind of integrate with them, or I guess merge with them during the process of the show, and then you have an hour break and you got to jump on the next one. And so it took me we're almost at 1,800 episodes. It probably took me like 700 or 800 to actually get to the point where I could find a rhythm most of the time, you know, and not get. But I have had my moments. Like yesterday, I woke up yesterday and I was like, man, I don't know what the hell was going on last night, but I feel like, people talk about angel wings.
yeah,
Like they'll say, man, I think I was flying last night because my shoulders hurt. I was like sore everywhere, like I'd been lifting weights. And I told Morgan, I said, man, I had 5 shows. I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to work today, but I'm going to make the decision at 10:30. And at 10:36, I was like, man, I still don't feel good, but I guess I'm going to do it. But it worked out okay. And actually the shows, she has a knack for like, you know, scheduling the shows, and like the frequency just kind of reads like a book. And so
yeah,
every show I did, I got lifted and lifted and lifted. So it was cool.
yeah. And it was funny because I only messaged you. I got the nudge to message you yesterday because you'd offered to be a guest. And thank you for your support as well with this, because
Mm-hmm.
especially when I was having some YouTube stuff, you've really been there. So thank you for that as well.
You're
So I
welcome.
messaged you to see if you'd be a guest, and then I did some stuff and then messaged Morgan. And I thought, I'll message now and then maybe in a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
we'll sort something out. And she's like, we've got a cancellation tomorrow. And
Yeah,
the
isn't that crazy?
phone
Yeah,
call came
yeah. I
through.
mean, and that's how it happens,
Yeah.
right? So like, I didn't even know. When you wrote me back, said I didn't know it was gonna be that quick, and then I went and looked at the calendar, and I'm like, what happened to Victoria Lillenquist? And she had something come up. But that's how it happens.
Yeah.
Like last night, the 5th show last night was actually Hung Nguyen, uh,
Yeah.
our sister from Canada, who's now done 2 shows. She interviewed me and then Morgan last night, where she's going to start sitting in my chair because I need help. You know what I mean? I can't do it all the time. And that's the whole point. It's not about me. It's about everybody. So we start just trying to build, some diversity and such. But the funny thing was about the synchronicities that happen when these shows get lined up. So last night they didn't talk. They came on, and Hung said, "Let's talk about walk-ins." And that earlier that day, Morgan was laying out getting some sun in the backyard. She had had a walk-in experience in October, and she started asking, the higher aspects, what's this all about? This has been going on for months. And in that moment, she actually integrated it all. Like it was a huge, it was a huge moment. And then Hung asked her about it, so you can't make that shift up,
Mm.
so it's kind of cool.
I'm just having a little look at the messages. Oh, thank you everybody who's joined us. That's awesome. So I wanted to ask you There's lots of things I wanted to ask you, but I wondered if you wanted to share the changes that Soulspeaks 5D is going through at the moment, and with your Patreon as well. I wondered if you wanted to share about
Oh,
that.
okay. Wow, I just got chills when you said that. I didn't get all of it. I just got the intention of it. Yeah. Well, I downloaded. So there's Soulogy was given to me uh, on Morgan's birthday. I didn't know her, but March 10th, 2012, the name was given to me by Archangel Michael, the consciousness or the energy or the aspect, whatever you want to call it, because I don't understand all that stuff anymore. It's too much information. But and then a couple of years later, around the same time of the year, same week, I was given Soulspeaks One Studios. So I was told, go make a studio in your house, and I'm all right. So then I started making videos, and to get to your point, around the time I was given Soulspeaks One Studios, which would have been 2014, 2015, something like that. I started getting these downloads of this universal 24/7, 365, multiple channel, handheld accessible network. And I was getting all kinds of information, and I didn't understand it. And then in the summer of 2018, I got it again. And it had, and that one had a lot to do with 5D commerce and Soulogy's role in bringing out 5D commerce, a new commerce system that's based on the honor system and such. So about a little over a year ago, I got to the end of my rope with the Facebook and YouTube was striking me, and Facebook suppressing me and blocking me and removing videos, and so I said, we're gonna do this, and I thought we would launch it in like May. It didn't happen, and other things have happened, so I've learned to release it and accept it and all that. But anyway, so where we're at now is a really beautiful lady hit us up and said, why don't you start a Patreon? Because and I said, okay, let me go check it out. Well, Patreon's set up to where you have different tiers. Like tier 1 is free to people to subscribe at, say, $5, and then there's another level. But what I did was I just made it one. Everything's free. It's just a way to contribute monthly and kind of give us a little bit more stability to try to work towards building some resources. It's kind of hard to do when you don't have anything from day to day. So at least this way we can kind of forecast, oh, we're going to have, $400 into the month or whatever the case is. So we did that. And then the Soulspeaks, and of course, that was just done in synchronicity. And I don't really know what much more to say about it. I feel like it's all connected. But then the Soulspeaks 5D part of it is to first with Hung to have a new moderator. Ultimately, we work towards building this platform and expanding it. See, Morgan actually downloaded, or I don't know if she downloaded it or declared it or both in 2008. So 7 years before she met me, she said, I want to see a place, or I received a place where we have a platform where everybody can share their skills and abilities and experiences. And then she met me. And then, so it was all kind of done. We were actually shown this in Hawaii last year. We were stepped into a monad of 24. And they said, the last time you guys were conscious and you stepped in this monad was 50 something years ago, 60 years ago. Wow. And when this was all planned, including Soulogy. So this was all done in the energetics, like everything, and then it's playing out in the physical. But so we're just, all we can really do at this point, especially given everything that's happening, is just do our best to continue broadcasting. We've tried to broadcast 5 to 6 days a week, 18 shows, 15 to 20 shows a week. And just keep trying to, just keep putting our best foot forward. The human part of me is kind of like detached from the whole network thing. although it's still, but one thing I do see is that it's a collective thing. I can't do it. Morgan and I can't do it on our own. It's a collective thing. It's a community thing. It's not ours. We're just kind of the first caretakers. Everybody's a part of it. So many people have been consistent in their contributions, even without Patreon.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'm kind of feeling is that I'll probably start, I've been doing these newscasts. We've done 3 in the last 5 days, 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
They've been very popular on YouTube. One of them got more comments than we've ever had on anything. I think there's 1,000 videos on there.
Oh, wow.
And they've resonated. So I want to kind of play with that a little bit. But I think part of it will be to start trying to build a community effort, like whatever you have, bring it to the party and let's put all the pieces together and see what we can do. In typical 5D fashion where you plan nothing, you just kind of wake up every day and do the best you can. So that probably wasn't a good answer, but that's kind of where it's at.
That was an awesome answer. And I think I'm really glad that you started to do the Patreon as well, because I think it's important to have at least some stability of some idea of what's coming in at the beginning of the month, what you're playing with. But on another level as well, because I've always given you contributions whenever I can. And they have, it's not been a regular thing.
Yeah.
But I have done the Patreon. And for me, it's kind of like, okay, I'm saying to the universe, this is another of my outgoings. Make sure that I receive to cover that. It's and in that passing it forward as well, it just keeps that flow going too.
Yeah.
So it feels a really key step to be doing that.
Yeah.
And people can still if they don't feel comfortable doing a monthly amount, they can still contribute whatever they can when they can as well.
Yeah. And that's what's happening. I mean, it's kind of, I think we've had about 40 people sign up in 2 weeks. It's like $350. But that is something. It gives us some stability. That's one big thing, I think. And so that's really been, I think it was time, I guess, and it fits. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I did do when I didn't have an awful lot of money was these codes, which is just about a year ago. And the superabundance codes kind of came from them. So my intention at some point, and it doesn't feel quite the right time yet, but my intention is actually to sell this code, because this to me is a seed. It's only little, like it's only that big. But that code that you can't really see, that one, and that one, these really powerful superabundance codes. And for me, this isn't about saying you tap into this code and then you are in your superabundance and that's it, job done. But it kind of puts an energetic framework in the earth to start with. That's one of the things for me. It's building that energetic framework so that the physical comes afterwards. And the same within our bodies as well. It kind of puts that framework in. So my intention is to sell that at some point and have kind of like a bidding, but not that it's going to be the highest bidder, but I will ask the code who the code wants to go to.
Yeah.
And then my intention is to share half with Soulogy as well at that point. So I'll keep you posted on that. That's
very kind of you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know, actually probably hardly anyone knows, but it's beginning when Arcturians downloaded the 5D commerce thing. I was in a hotel room in Houston in 2018, right after we got married. Morgan went back to Australia. And the next morning, I was led to PayPal. I saw an ad for a loan. Now, I have had horrendous credit for 10 years or 15 years. I mean, it's a mess, right? So I heard you need to push that button. So I did. So I ended up getting a small loan. I was like, wow. Something happened then. I took 2 more out. They went up every time. I paid back, 30, a lot. I mean, like over $25,000. And this is what's kept us going. So I just about have this last one paid off. You know, there's probably $1,500 to go, and it's taken a year. And so I'm like at this point where, do you take another one out and try to launch this thing or expand this thing, or do you let go of the reins and allow? And that's really, it would be nice to do those things. It would be nice to get some security, or, you know, some cushion,
Yeah.
but something's telling us just let go. Whatever you need, you're going to have, and just let go, which is a little bit scary, but we've been there before. So, but that's why I think the Patreon thing was even though it's not a big amount, but you know, over time, maybe it'll continue to grow.
Yeah, I think so. I had a question and I didn't write it down, and it's just slipped my mind. We were talking about that earlier. So I will go to a different question. So, and this is very much linked, that you've been living on trust a lot throughout the last few years. And I hear you on that. When I was in New Zealand and traveled around New Zealand, it was very much like that. I didn't really know where I was going. Some places I did. And I was very held while I was there by amazing people. And, you know, I then came back to England and I only had about 150 New Zealand dollars left. Like it was pretty tight, my time there. So I totally get where you're coming from in that. And the donation thing is a funny one as well. It's I don't even like the word donation. Contribution feels a much more favorable word. There's just a heaviness with the idea of donation, which it shouldn't have, because really it does just mean gift. But maybe it's because of the exchange kind of aspect of it as well, because people are giving for what they've received from you as well. And really, from my time in Byron, I stopped nursing. So I think a lot of us have done so much work on our abundance, but we haven't seen the rewards yet. And sometimes you wonder, you know, what is there still left to do? What more is there? But I feel that we're kind of bridging at the moment. We're bridging the two systems. Yeah. And we're not fully in either one yet, but it feels like this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And what I was going to mention before is that actually this week and last week, something feels like it shifted. I can feel like it shifted for me, and it doesn't feel like it's just me. It feels like this is a collective thing, that some of that dirge, some of that murky energy has really, really cleared in regards to this.
Yeah. I totally resonate with you. Everything you just said, I totally resonate with it. I think something has happened. I think the for instance, like I know this is going to sound contradictory, but so like the energy of hoarding, which is fear of lack, whatever you want to call it, greediness, whatever. I think that's one of the things that has become available to be cleared. And then at the same time, you've got people hoarding all over the world. But there is, I think, enough evidence, regardless of what energy becomes available, that there's some people that are integrating the energy first, or integrating the new programming first, and then it hits the masses or whatever, however that works. But I totally agree with you. I think something has shifted in the last 10 days. And I think that I also totally agree with you that we're not in the new system and we're not in the old system. And I also believe, and this is just my opinion, I firmly believe, whether it's this template in terms of financial maneuvering or machinations or any other aspect of our lives, that we're actually creating the new template. So we can take it as far as we want to. I do think there is a certain element of universal energetic force that's going to push us to detach and no longer resist and no longer judge certain things. And I guess what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, the whole 5D way of life and frequency, or combination of frequency, vibration, and experience is absolutely 100% different than 3D. And so I think that's really, whether it's financial or anything else, I think that's really what it comes down to. We can't do anything like we've done before.
Mm.
That's what I've received for 8 or 9 years. They told
Yeah.
me, whatever you do, you can't, whatever, because I said, like, okay, you gave me this information, what do I do? They said, well, you figure that out. Like they tell all of us, right? And then they said, but whatever you do, and they told me this many, many times, even up until just recently, whatever you do, you can't do anything that's been done before. So I can't go out and create a website and charge subscribers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. This is my understanding. One of the things was switching from the word donation to contribution, because it is a contribution.
Mm.
Everybody makes up this vortex, and Soulogy is just one face of it. Your energy, your vortex is another face of it. I mean, so that's kind of what I try to stick with, and then not to. I had to learn this from Morgan, because I tended to like go out. Oh, I got to make something happen now, and it worked to a degree, but over time she's like, when you don't know what to do, if your whole being isn't feeling it, it's not time yet. So there's a lot of hold. But when the time comes, then you know. And I think we can all relate to that. So
Yeah.
that's another thing I learned.
And I think for you to be so publicly doing this as well, it's very inspirational, but it's really creating a path.
Mm.
And had we all been really fully in our prosperity, we wouldn't have been doing the work that we've been doing on the energy either. Like we've needed to do this to create these frameworks.
Yeah.
And the passing it forward is a really beautiful way of keeping it flowing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just feeling into the word contribution, there's much more of a togetherness. There's a much more of, you know, we're all in this together with contribution.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think obviously we're dealing with a whole shipload of programming, right? So
Absolutely.
it's very subliminal, subtle, suggestive.
Yeah.
So, programming to me it's just suggestion. So even we do it to each other by suggesting, hey, if you go
Mhm.
across the street, you might get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
That creates an energy of fear potentially, So I
Yeah.
mean, some programming takes on a physicality, but for instance, like that example, you don't have to do a lot of research, for instance, to know that most, and I'm going to just say this, certainly virtually all of the major donation hubs, such as the Red Cross, are all crooked and
Yeah.
corrupt. So the very connotation of the word donation carries a certain frequency.
Yeah.
Whether you've done research and understand that or not, it carries a certain charge, like a charge of pity, or they're helpless.
Yeah.
Where contribution to me carries one of, we're all part of this.
Mm.
I gain something from this. We do
Yeah.
the same thing. We pay forward 30%, and this is something that I was told as well. So there it's I think becoming more clear for all of us, the power of the programming, the suggestion, the subliminal, the subtle, and also what we speak out,
Yeah.
from our thoughts. We're becoming more conscious of what we're saying, because it is, as that meme that goes around, it's a spell.
Yeah.
It can be positive, it can be negative, or whatever the case is, but it's a fact, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been whenever I remember in a transaction with money, I will say money is love. And sometimes I do actually kind of sing it at a counter or just say it under my breath. Some people put it on their checks, because then that's putting the energy of love into the system instead of that kind of lack energy that money often holds, because people holding the money are holding that energy. So there's so much we can do anyway.
Yeah. Well, and everybody remember too that, I mean, for me, it's, it's all, everything's energy. So everything is made of the same substance.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call it the God substance or the goddess substance, which means that it's you. So we can integrate with anything. We are the point of separation. And the flip of that is we are, potentially the point of separation doesn't come from anything outside of us. It comes from ourselves. But we're also the point of unification. So that's another way. We're transformers.
Mm-hmm.
So if money from the center of the universe, which is me, has a negative charge or even a positive charge, if you want to use those terms, and it's not good and bad, just, not zero pointed, then we have the ability to zero point it. So, that's another way to look at it.
Mm. We were mentioning before we started about some of the stuff that's been going on with computers and electronics of late. So, and I heard you mention it on one of your shows recently as well. So how's that shown itself for you? What's been happening?
Well, all along the lines of doing these shows, there's always been like these anomalies and aberrations. And oftentimes I wonder, can everybody see what I'm seeing? Because it'll be like the person I'm talking to will start morphing or weird sounds and different things like that. It seems to be related to the connection. And then when I say the connection, I don't just mean between me and the other person, but also everyone that's involved. And people have caught it. Like when Grace Solaris almost disappeared,
Mm-hmm.
And countless other examples. And then there's this other thing that happens where the physical technology, be it bandwidth or reception or the computer or a phone or Facebook or YouTube, whatever the case is, starts acting up, and it happens almost like in a pattern. Sometimes it seems to be attributed to collective energy that's anchoring in, and sometimes it seems to be more affiliated with the vortex. I'll just call it Soulogy of what's occurring. But what I noticed over the last, I don't know, maybe 5 days, is that almost everything, like I think it was yesterday, the first two shows is like everything was glitching, everything. The laptop, the phone, the signal. So I don't know. I think it's a sign of a higher frequency that's expanding.
Yeah, and I find sometimes with my phone or whatever, some things just don't work. If I'm being guided to do something different than what Denise Human wants to do, like watch a video or whatever, then it just won't play. Or I just can't put comments, or whatever it is. My higher aspects seem to be communicating to me through my technology.
Yeah, and through everything else, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like for instance, yesterday I had 2 posts removed, which I haven't been harassed. I mean, we've been suppressed. People don't get notifications, and you can see it in the views, the replays, 3 or 4 times the numbers than the live views, which a year ago that wouldn't have happened. But anyway, so yesterday I had a couple of posts removed, and they weren't. One of them was Sandra Walter, and the other one was Sharon Sudar, the DNA lady, and they're both, they're like, Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, kind of energy. They're certainly not saying anything rebellious or, conspiratorial or anything. But then I also noticed that there was a lot of other people saying, hey, I just got something, removed. And so I think that, I think the universe, kind of shows us where you're at. B, it trying to gives us signals. Like, say you want to go on and you're going to watch a video on this thing that's everybody's talking about, and it doesn't come on. And then you do it again and it doesn't come on. It's a signal. Don't watch it. Just remove yourself. And then I think other times, like for instance, the example I'm talking about yesterday, that happens. And I told Morgan, I said, oh, that's weird. They removed a couple of my posts, and then I'm reading other people's, and people are like, hey, you know what? F you and da 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 da. And I think so. What I'm saying is, I think other times it's given us an opportunity to, like Morgan always says, make a different choice. I mean, why take it personal? Why think that Facebook or whoever is coming after you? Why make a mountain out of a molehill, versus just accepting it as a message to you, which is personal, but not in the same way, personal as in a gift, and then move on.
When your posts have been removed, do you get notified that a post has been removed, or have you just noticed that it's not there anymore?
No, I get notified.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same notice a lot of other people got yesterday. I don't know why it's happening, but
interesting.
But here's the thing: all these things that happen, every single thing. If I get off the show with you and I go walk down the street, what animals present themselves, or what numbers do I notice, or what color the car is that drives by me, or whatever. All of it is messages, like reading a book. And I think we're getting better at reading a book. So, it's I think maybe this is part of the transition, is we're going from saying, why is this happening to me, to understanding this is all happening for me. Right. So, yeah.
Just as you were talking about the messages, I could hear the ducks quacking outside, but I don't actually know what the message of duck is, so I'll have to look that up after. Now, dragons. My feeling is that they've been a little bit quiet recently, and I got the message yesterday that they're kind of like almost preparing something. It's for me, and I'm going to ask you about this anyway to see if this is your experience as well, but it feels not quite that they've backed off, but that they haven't been quite as present and active as they were, when would it have been, 6 months to a year ago, but that they're going to be coming back with more kind of, I won't say force, but with more presence. Have you experienced that as well, or have they still been as present for you?
Well, they've obviously, we talked about it, and I talk about it. So they've been present. A multitude of them have been present at different times since the end of 2018. And but I think it was a couple of months ago. We do our normal thing at night, and a particular dragon came, which was quite a white silvery dragon that identified itself as a 13th master dragon, the 13th, representing the number 13, and it was tied into our role with divine union. And so there's a story behind it, but the point is that really since then, it has been, unless I'm not remembering something, but it has been the only one that showed up. And it's specifically, and I'm going to say even as recent as, I know if I go back about 4 or 5 days, the week prior to that, it came in 3 times. But it seems to be specifically involved with clearing the root, the sacral, and as a direct link to creativity, expansion of creativity, which we all know is tied to the sacral. sacral. I never can say that word right, but and then you made a reference like they're sitting back. I don't know. I mean, I just can tell you what our own experience is, but I can tell you that what I do know about the dragon energy is that it's uh, very much business, 100%. We're not here to, have a fluffy love and light, la-di-da dimensional experience. We're here to get some work done.
Mm.
And one of the, to me, one of the most fascinating uh, communions that we had was 2 or 3 months ago, and I think it was I think it was right. Well, I think it was when the white silvery dragon first came and explained to us that there was a master dragon element, and that the master dragon element had been a part of the reptilian species, and that they chose at an early stage to take responsibility, as we're all learning to do, for their experience, and they dedicated themselves to removing the shadow, much like us, aligning our DNA, removing the shrouds of the soul and so on, and that they had achieved a master status, and that they were here to help us. And of course, I understand this is all being metaphoric, but yeah, I can. My feeling was always like they were kind of here at the beginning, and now they've come to assist as we, head to the coronation.
Yeah. I've been feeling the presence of, I might call them the Sisterhood of the Rose a lot recently. That real divine feminine energy that's been coming in for me a little bit more than dragon energy. Like the dragons are kind of still there, but they've not been as active with me. But the kind of Magdalene energies, the Sophia energies have been coming in much more strongly at the minute. I'm not sure why. Is that an energy that you connect with as well?
Well, yeah, I think we've connected with like the Yeshua, Magdalene. I know we have. I mean, many times, one way or the other. We've merged with them. Lots of things have happened with them. Uh, I don't, I'm not really 100% clear. I don't know if I can really talk about it. What I can say is that um, I'm aware of like a sisterhood energy. I know it seems like Morgan is a big part of that. Um, it does seem to be tied to the obviously the divine feminine, Magdalene. I have been, I want to go back probably 3 or 4 years, Great White Brotherhood. Um, they pop in every now and then. In fact, they popped in probably about a week ago when we lay down, and they popped in, and it was a very masculine thing. Sometimes when we connect, we don't say anything, and we just kind of do our own thing. Um, but that's what happened. It was a very masculine kind of thing. I feel like that's kind of tied to Yeshua. There has been this whole dance, of course, with the feminine and the masculine. Um, and I know that Morgan and I are rooted in that somehow. That's kind of the mission within the mission, is to anchor this Trinity frequency onto the earth, transforming it from duality to Trinity. There has been, for us, a very deliberate and steady, well guided, not always easy evolution of what, us being like, say, a physical representation of the masculine and feminine, that has been further and further and further integrating and coming together. Uh, it doesn't seem to look anything like old relationships or preconceived notions or expectations of what we think love should be. It's something very powerful. It's been getting more and more powerful, especially over the last week or so. And we both can kind of feel something is is really is really happening. So it's really, for me, it's pretty exciting, because it's been a pretty long journey. But back to your question, yeah, I think that's kind of how I see the stuff connected. I don't really know the ins and outs, but I can feel it.
Yeah. I love that you've shared so much of your journeys together with Morgan, and a lot of the things that appear to you when you're just going to sleep and you're holding hands. Like it's really fascinating, all that stuff. And I honor you for sharing so much of that energy with us all. And I think it kind of triggers something in us as well. It's activating our codes as you do that, even if it's not, a specific light language activation or whatever, just through your words and the energy between the words, it's activating those sacred sexuality codes, those sacred union codes as well within all of us.
Yeah, and I think obviously that's what we all do. I mean, I never knew what merging was until I met Morgan. And, from the first night, we had a Helios Gamos, and as I got to know more about it, I thought, well, we're merging all the time. Every time I think of somebody, I'm, you know what I mean? I mean, every time I run into somebody. So I think we're always exchanging information. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Now we're becoming more conscious of our responsibility, our potential of being a limitless kind of creator. But one thing about, like, I try to, like, when I get up this morning, and I've been doing much more consistent. I'll come sit down by myself and I'll say, please, what can I do? What can I do? I'm going to do a news flash. Please help me. And I get nervous and stuff too. I'm not, people think, oh, you're such a natural. No. I still get the butterflies, but I reach up and I just try to say, okay, please give me all the support you can get, and let's do this. And boom, and so what I'm getting at is I kind of look at my role as, even when I started back in 2012, I would like expose myself to different energies, people's posts and videos and just different things going on, headlines, whatever, conspiracy videos. And I would load it all up, and then I would go through this 2 or 3 days where I would just, put posts out, and it was very much like a channeling energy. I kind of look at it, my role now is the same way. It's become something with maybe a little more clarity. So I guess what I'm saying is that I kind of see myself as someone who's reporting from the front line of the apocalypse with whatever I know. Everything I do, and honestly, everything I've done since I met that woman in September 2015, even when she wasn't talking to me, has had, if I put something out, it's not just me. It's not even me anyway, but I mean, that's the biggest influence. And as time's gone on, I've realized that what I'm actually putting out there is energetically and in a nutshell, the integration of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
It used to be, for instance, if I was, say, go back 2 or 3 years and I was unknown, unconscious of some shadows, because I was pretty raw at times, shadows and all. But I might have had a conversation with Morgan, as I'm trying to like court her, and from a distance of half a world away. And I might not get the reaction I want, or my expectation wasn't met, and I'd hang up the phone on her and I'd be like, but it would inspire me. It would inspire me, and I might jump on the thing and start ranting and raving, but I realized I would utilize this, and it was all done. And this is not about Todd. It's just the masculine trying to take his love for the feminine and create, right? Another example would be when I first met her, and I wasn't even aware I was doing this. When I started, she had all the stuff that she downloaded for 15 or 20 years. Sacred union, sacred sexuality, the awakening, and I'm like, whoa, but it all resonated, but I didn't like, understand it all. So she would talk to me about different things. Like she'd say, you know, when you clear this and you make a new decision, you create new neural pathways. And I said, well, what's that? And then she would explain it to me. And then I would go out on a spirit walk and I would start doing my thing. And I would basically report on everything that she had basically shown me or taught me. She pointed out to me later, and I'm like, oh, I don't do that. And then I realized that's what I did. And then I realized later that that's actually a good thing, And so that's kind of how I see my role. And so whether it's myself or because that was what your comment and question was, but it's really everybody, anybody. And it doesn't have to be with a microphone in front of a camera. It can be light language imagery. It can be light language. It can be a poem. It can be really anything. It can be, walking out in the front yard and seeing a neighbor and having a conversation or lending a hand, or those are just as impactful, if not potentially more impactful, because nobody's watching you. It's what that old saying that integrity is doing the right thing and when nobody's watching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of surprises me that you said you get nervous sometimes. I think that's awesome for you to share that because
I don't get as nervous as I used to, but you got to remember, like I think it was maybe 5 days, 6 days ago. Like last week, we did 20 shows, right? And there was a lot of stuff going down. I mean, there was a lot of energy happening, and so it took me a while, because when the energy's like that, you can't even get nervous, you can't. But what it taught me is that like when I turn on the camera, I can go into this space, right? Kind of the same space that I tried to align with when I started doing videos, and a lot of them were spirit walks, because I had done spirit walking for a couple of years by myself. So I thought, well, that's what I need to do. I'll just go out and I'll turn the camera on and I'll just start talking to the universe as I talk to the universe, but now everybody's watching, right? But there's a certain channel frequency that you get, and so when I all this energy is coming in, I noticed that, well, you don't even have time to be nervous. You just kind of got like stabilize. And Morgan would teach me what do you call it, 3 fingers on the heart, a mudra. Or she told me a long time ago, which helped me a lot, was before you go on, connect to the higher self of the other person, which has helped me a lot, and so what happened was I started to go, okay, so when I did get nervous, I already had new neural pathways that when I hit that point before from the energies or whatever was going on, I could connect. And so I started to use that method. But I do get I don't really get nervous for the Soulspeak 5Ds at all anymore. But I do if I'm gonna do a spirit walk or do a news flash, and I just push the button, and I guess it kind of forces me to just go for it, and so and so there are many times. I mean, I did 3 of those last week, and I was talking out my ass. I mean, I wasn't, but I wasn't like stop. I didn't like make a list of what I was going to talk about, or there's something about spontaneity, even if you mispronounce words, even if you get lost, even if you stutter or go blank, there's something about just being transparent, and it's not even the words, and it's not me, it's anyone and everyone. That is just like pure truth frequency when you can be transparent. And I guess the other thing I'm trying to say is that even if it looks like it's relaxed and flowing and all that, there's a lot of the time when most of the time there's that excitable, nervous energy going, you
Yeah.
know, there really is. And so I guess what I'm saying is it can be done even with
Mhm.
that happening. In fact, that's probably better if it is happening.
Mm. And that it's okay as well, especially people starting out to say, I'm really nervous doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
people are generally actually very compassionate with you as
Mm-hmm.
well. For me, it's pressing that button, start live. I don't really so much now, but when I was first doing lives, I'd practice what I was saying. And if I stumbled over my words when I started and no one was with me yet, then I'd just like come out of it, I'd finish and delete it and then start again. Um, yeah. And I did that 2 days ago as well. I can't remember what happened, but I was like, no, I don't like that one. I'm going to start again.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people, I think I did it yesterday. I come on, I say, well, I just want you to know I'm not okay. you
Yeah.
know, Laughter is a big deal.
Mm.
Uh, Being able to laugh about it, not take it so seriously. That I obviously I do that a lot. Uh, there's a degree of nervousness sometimes in the laugh, and that's okay too. I'd rather be nervous and laughing than nervous and freaking out. You know what I mean?
What would be your favorite multidimensional, or however you would wish to name it, experience that you've had with Morgan when you've just been lying holding your hands?
Well, that's easy. Um, that last year in Hawaii, and we talked about it. We had physical helioscomas. Now we had it other times too, but the one that broke the door down was 4 hours of the most inexplicable, far out, uh, off planet, off universe. I mean, it was, and I know that it's encoded, or the code was open, or we expanded whatever template was given to us, or something. But it was incredible for me because it was a fusion and an integration of the physical and the non-physical. And by God, the human is the hero. The human is not going to be left out of this experience. No different than the network, or no different than desiring to have a partner, or when we let go and trust and have faith and walk the talk. There's some like crazy, amazing things that we have the potential to experience and to imprint
Mm.
in an expanded template, expanded universe. And I believe, well, I don't believe it. I know that we were given, and that wasn't the only time, but we were given an incredible insight into the potential, not just for ourselves, but for everybody. Hang on, let me turn that off. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, that was
So
it though. Yeah.
when you and Morgan were in separate places recently, was that just as strong at night when you were going to sleep, even though you weren't together holding hands?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of history with that, but so we've been together. I can't remember dates anymore, but I think it was May. I want to say it was May. She came back to Hawaii, and we haven't been apart since then, until about a month and a half ago. The travel, you know, understandably it got to her because I got to go. you know. So she went to visit a beloved sister of ours in Kansas City, and the night before she left, we laid in bed, and we usually we start like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she took my hand and turned it and grasped it, like to anchor this.
Yeah.
And so the next night, next morning I took her to the airport, and I came to a place that had been gifted to us for a few weeks, and I was by myself, and it was a very, very powerful experience and day. A lot of things happened, but when I laid down, as soon as I put my hand down, I could feel her hand, and then I felt her do that, just like it had happened the night before. So, yeah, it happens. And even and she said the same thing. You know, when I put my hand out, I felt your hand, and yeah, we've had a lot of that happen. You know, prior to this last whatever 10 months that we've been together pretty much nonstop. But yeah, definitely. In fact, after she came the first time, which was 10 weeks, where I was doing a lot of shadow work, and it was a very, the very beginning of our physical relationship. We remained celibate, where there was just a lot of stuff I was going through. I mean, I was, by human standards, dirt poor. I couldn't even buy a pack of gum. And so before she left, we had decided we were going to buy each other some crystal, and she bought this incredible wand, and so when she left, I'm staying at a friend of mine's house, and I'm heartbroken, and I'm like, what's going on? I mean, all these things are happening. So I would hold that thing at night, and I would just put it out there to the best of my abilities. And after about 3 weeks, she called me up. She said, "Are you doing something?" you know, and I said, "Yeah." She said, "You need to stop, because I can't even function." So it's real for all of us. It's real.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brother Todd.
Yeah.
It looks like our time has come to an end.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and congratulations, and well done. And I'm really happy that you're doing what you're doing. I hope more and more people do things like this. Doesn't necessarily have to be a talk show, but thank you for putting it out there. And it takes, I say it on the show all the time, it's spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and depending on what we're doing or talking about, courageous. So it does take courage. And the soul is all about the many virtues, of the soul. One of them is courage.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to show your ass. It's okay to be transparent. It's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay, and so it takes a lot. But every time someone like you does what you're doing, the energy of it impacts other people, and then they start to cross. They start to walk across that bridge or build their own bridge.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much.
I think in facing fears, it doesn't matter if we're facing fears and our knees are trembling. It's the fact that you face them. You don't necessarily have to face your fears and be fully in your power. It's okay to be shaky doing that. But the fact is that you're facing your fears. Yeah.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not a little...
Go on.
I'm just saying, if the fear is a factor all the time, and maybe it's going to go away totally, and maybe that's what 5D is or whatever, but it's actually a friend. I mean, it's a marker or an indicator of something that we can grow from,
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, from my perspective, it's about taking a step through that fear, so to speak, into that unknown, or what's going to happen if I do this, And I remind myself a lot of that over the last 3 or 4 years, especially since she came, because here's this woman coming all the way from Australia, strictly on this guidance from up here, pretty much. Not even from a romantic level, but the higher self saying, go do, and that takes a lot of courage for a human being to do stuff like that. And there's more and more people doing it. So don't be afraid.
And I will just, because I didn't do this at the beginning, I'll just very quickly connect all of our hearts before we close. So just feeling the heart connection between Todd and myself and all of the people watching live on the replay, all of the people watching live and on the replay, and watching on YouTube. Words are failing me just now. And just really putting that love energy out to Mother Gaia, and to all the inhabitants. And thank you again, Brother Todd.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you. Peace out. See you
Thanks
later.
for everyone watching.
Bye-bye. Thank you.